You're welcome to this segment of the Bumper Breakfast Show, Thursday edition. My name is Tung Adirile, and today, we'll be discussing a very important topic. While I was growing up as a child back in the day, I used to look at my older sister and my younger ones, and in my mind, I'd be thinking that, okay, she would die first, and then, we'll die in the order in which we came. That was the impression, because that was what used to happen a lot then. But today the case is completely different. It's a different story. The young ones are dying like it's in fashion. It's unfortunate. And even the older ones don't live that long anymore. I mean, at some point we used to see very old people, bent and shriveled and everything. And sometimes you say, oh, maybe that person is a witch, because that's the impression that children had at the time, But these days you hardly see very old people. It's unfortunate. And then I start to ask myself, what exactly is going on? And I'm not looking at the world over. What concerns me majorly is what is happening in my immediate environment. I'm talking about Nigeria. What's going on in Nigeria? Why are people not living long anymore? Why are the young ones dying? These are the numerous questions that are unanswered. And so we thought, okay, let's reach out to someone who knows better and who may give us answers to our questions. We've reached out to Dr. Badmus. She's here in the studio with us. She's a senior reg and she works with the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital. Dr. Badmus, thank you for coming on the Bumper Breakfast Show this morning. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning, Dr. Badmus.
Okay, Dr. Badmus, you'd like to do a very brief introduction of yourself, what exactly you do.
So my name is Sakina Odayi Badmus. I'm a senior registrar in the Department of Family Medicine at LASUTH. Okay. Because a lot of times, a lot of people mix LUTH and LASUTH together. Yes. So LUTH is Lagos University Teaching Hospital. It's a veteran center. But LASUTH is Lagos State University Teaching Hospital, the one at Ikeja. All right, so, as a family physician, we are the only ones licensed to see everybody across the family, from the very little one, the newborn, to the very old one. So we see all cases, all conditions, no gender disparity, no ethnic disparity. In the outside world, we are called GPs. Yeah. However, in Nigeria, we are called family physicians because we're professionals, not the doctor that just finishes school and starts working. Okay. No. We go for something we call residency program, which is a postgraduate program that spans 5 to 6 years. Yes. Mm-hmm. So now, that is when you now qualify as a family physician, as it were.
That makes you a consultant?
Yes, I am almost a consultant now.
Okay, but she has actually specialized in that area. So it's different from a doctor who just leaves school and touches on everything. So,
okay. Yeah. So talking about what the topic of the day, so what went wrong or what changed over the years? When she was having the intro, she talked about gone are the days when you see your parents, you're alive, you see your grandma, your great-grandma, and all of that. But it's happening, it's not really, we don't see so many of those things right now. So what happened, what changed, what went wrong, or what are we doing what were they doing that we are no more doing, or what are we supposed to be doing that we are not doing?
Yes, thank you very much. So when you say life expectancy, we are talking about, just the way it is, the average number of years an individual is expected to live for. That's the simple definition for life expectancy. However, it varies across societies, across nations, across countries, even within Africa as a continent, across various countries within the African continent. And when you say life expectancy, it's actually an interplay of a lot of factors. There are some factors we cannot do anything about. However, there are some factors that we can modify, that we can do something about. On top of the list of the things we cannot do anything about is genetics.
True.
So, by the virtue of the fact that your parents have a particular condition, you are at risk of that condition.
Okay, so you
that on its own, yes, it is a factor. Do you understand? In other climes too, there are various genes, all these breast cancer genes, all these colon cancer genes that are inherited most times.
Really?
Yes. So for people with that, it already puts us at a particular level. And you remember what I said about the definition? It's the average. Meaning that if I say the average life expectancy of Nigerians is about 55 years, it doesn't mean that we won't see the 85s. It doesn't mean that we won't see the 25s, but we are saying the average cut across is actually around that age. So, like I said, it's an interplay of a lot of factors. Genetics is one. Another one is a biological factor. So, so it is said that men have shorter life expectancy compared to women.
Oh, really?
Yes, because men, are usually involved in risky activities, Most times when road traffic accidents happen, it is the man that is the driver. They're probably the ones that move from pillar to post, trying to fend for the family and all of that. So, averagely, men have a shorter life expectancy compared to female. Another factor is the health-related factors. So I start from when we were born. So the truth is, the perinatal factors, usually when you're born, all those conditions that happen, perinatal mortality, all those perinatal mortality conditions, things like birth asphyxia, when babies are born, they don't cry immediately before you know it. Some survive, and some don't survive. Some survive with some deficits, mental retardation and all of those things.
They grow up like
some, yes. So that's another factor on its own. Then the childhood conditions, especially in this climate where you have malnutrition, you have a lot of diarrheal diseases. You'll be shocked that malaria still kills a lot of people in Africa.
Malaria, yes.
I'm telling you, it still kills a lot of people in Africa. So those are some other factors.
But people are not aware that malaria still kills.
Oh, it kills a lot of people.
And so there should be more awareness, don't you think?
Yes. The values are still very high. Mortality as caused by malaria is
in children or in adults?
In children mostly. It's very common in children. Okay, so another factor that happens around that is health related, like we all know, are the lifestyle factors.
True.
Things like smoking,
drinking,
exercise, sedentary lifestyle, things like alcohol, all those things on their own are factors that affect the life expectancy. Then coming down the line, another factor that is common here is the environmental factors. Stress is a major factor. Conflicts, kidnapping here and there, road traffic accidents, Yes, accidents can happen. But when you have, most accidents we have around this part of the world are preventable accidents. The roads are bad.
The roads are very bad.
Everybody's trying to make ends meet. We are all in a hurry. And before you know it, somebody is running at a very high speed limit. When it's time to halt the brake, you're running too high, and the next thing the car somersaults. There are too many factors. Then another factor we talk about is socioeconomic status. So we all know that education has a role to play. The virtue of the fact that you're educated, you probably would not engage in some activities. Things like, risky life attitudes, risky health behaviors. That, smoking is not good.
No, the tendency not to. The tendency is, but it's not that they don't. Some people do, even though they're educated.
Yes, we have professionals who go to do all of these things. But, most times, sometimes, so things like herbal concoctions on the road, all those are buying alumos, something
but you see,
like
let
that.
me just hold your thought a bit. The average man, watching us out there will say that a lot of all of this you have said had ever been since, the beginning of the earth, and would say that probably it's even getting better now. So why should, the life expectancy decrease? As time goes by. You talked about a biological factor. It's ever been there since we were the beginnings of the earth. You talked about genes. It's ever been there. You talked about environmental factor. Yes, I can agree with you on environmental factor, because we have a lot of environmental pollution now that had not been, years ago that we have now. But you talked about like for the men and the women, some other person will want to argue with you, saying that what women go through physically, like the period, like the childbirth and everything, should, even today we have women working harder at times, much more than the men. So practically an average man there would say to you, doctor, I don't see this as a reason. Something must be the problem.
Okay, that takes me back to what I said earlier. Life expectancy is an interplay of all of these factors. I put it to you that the number of cancers we're having now is increasing.
Yeah.
Cancers have been there in the past, but we're having more now. The genes have been there, but a lot of things have changed. Our lifestyle, the things we consume now has changed. The environmental pollutants we take in every time has changed. Even these days, if you don't want to smoke, you're just walking on the road,
You're smoking.
and you're getting
You're
it
smoking.
all the way. Those things have changed, and those things are impacting on our life. There was no Boko Haram. There was no kidnapping this much. I mean, it was happening at that time, but it has increased. So usually the way we calculate life expectancy is that, we have different methods. There's this cohort life expectancy where you look at a number of people that were born about the same time, and you follow them up in future. Look at when they die and calculate the average.
So I think, the natural things, the natural causes that you mentioned, the things like the sickle cell anemia and all of that, all the genetic things, all of those, like she said, rightly said, had been there. And even at that time, some people
There was
didn't
no
know,
knowledge.
they didn't even know that these things existed, but they just knew that people were dying. Okay, but I think, from what you've said, that it's more of environmental things and the social life,
way of
yes,
life.
yes, the way of life that has caused this, because people are consuming the things that they didn't used to consume.
Yes.
Used to eat a lot of natural, veggies and natural foods, good food, and today it's different. Everything is processed, and that's not good for the system. So I think that has a lot to play. The genetic things, the things, the regular things that we know, let's just put those aside. There's absolutely not much. I wouldn't say absolutely nothing. Not much that one can do about it. And I say not much because, for example, if you say that, cancer, is genetic. If somebody knows that cancer is genetic and, it's been in the family line, and they know in time that they can do certain things to extend or to take precautions. For example, you have breast cancer. You can take out the breasts, after you've had your children, so that you don't have it. Isn't that true?
Oh, well,
There's a popular popular musician, who did that.
It is not a method we usually advise. The truth is, we are all at risk of cancers at various stages. Are you going to take out your colon because you don't want to have colon cancer? Are you going to take out your lungs because you don't want to have lung cancer? That you don't have a breast cancer does not mean you cannot have cancer in other parts. So at that point, I mean, like you said, the genetic factors are there. However, we also need to look at the other things that are now making it more prominent these days. Remember I mentioned the environmental, the lifestyle factors.
Yes.
A lot of things have changed. The genes have been there quite all right. But you're now having more expression of these bad genes now. You have a lot of lifestyle things adding to it. So for example, if you have a breast cancer gene or you have a colon cancer gene, it's there. Some things can make it, come out really more and exhibit itself and manifest. Some people have these genes, but they don't have these cancers. We need to understand that. However, like I said, those other factors, those additional factors are the things that now make it out. And education, I mean, the fact that you are aware that you need to go for self-breast examination, clinical examination, mammography when you're 50 years, those things have their own value that they are playing. So cancers are detected early. And I mean, there are cancers in all those other places too. However, they are detected early and something is done early. But in Nigeria, for example, people come when it's really bad. In fact, when they come and you can do something, if you tell them the breast is going to come out, they go, they rebuke you, and they're away. By the time they are coming in 5 years, it has metastasized, it has gone everywhere. At that point, you cannot do anything
to it
anymore at that point. So that education part is very important. Of course, socioeconomic status also. I mean, the more learned you are, the more conscious you are. You can go for mammo and all of that. The common woman on the street cannot, I mean, she's not even interested. She just wants to get something to eat and feed her children with. So it's all an interplay of a lot of factors, like I said earlier.
Do you think the government has a part to play in
Oh,
this?
sure. Remember, I mentioned poverty earlier. I mean, we cannot but keep talking about it. A lot of people are involved in things they're not supposed to be involved in because they just want to make ends meet. If you really take that out, a lot of factors will die down. I give you an example. I mentioned socioeconomic status. I mean, if all the child and all the children around are educated, they are given that, So, sometimes I say that our forefathers, not forefathers per se, but those that are in their 60s and 70s enjoyed a lot in this country. It was a time where education was free for all. But now, even now, students are dropping out of school willingly because, I mean, that you're educated is not even a legal tender that you can make it in life. People don't even care anymore. They've termed education, but it has its own factor to play. So it goes back to our government. If we take out the socioeconomic things, poverty, we take out education, we look into having work. I mean, people are gainfully employed.
Health,
a lot of, yes.
Health,
I mean, even health-related factors. Something as small as health facilities, access to health, is also an indication, is also one of the factors that affect life expectancy. A common man cannot walk into any hospital in this country now and get, it's a big deal. It's
and even the so-called government hospitals, I mean, you have to keep paying and paying and paying, and not everybody can afford those.
Yes.
I have a case in my area, you know, this woman, I think she has some sort of fibroid or something, and then somehow I think they're seeing ectopic pregnancy. And I said, for me, ectopic pregnancy is a medical emergency. And I don't think they should even be talking about it. I think the woman should be in the theater.
And
you understand?
Because she's bleeding out.
And you know what they said to me? I said they should take her to a teaching hospital or a general hospital. They said it's too expensive. So what are we talking about? Even the government hospitals are expensive, you know, for the common man. Yes. What is the solution?
We really need to, I mean, go back to the drawing board. Our government has a lot of role to play. At every level, at the community level, at the local government level, at the state level, at the federal level, a lot needs to be done. The common man out there, you know, when you have the opportunity to take public transports, you will see that everybody's frustrated. Little things just bring up anger. You know, sometimes traffic is much and you just park your car and you say, let me quickly move from here. Before you know, just something small, everybody is angry. People are agitated. I mean, everybody's angry. I mean, that's
sitting on a keg of gunpowder.
Yes, we are. We are. I mean, we are hopeful that we won't get to a point where, you know, the youth will stand up and they say there is need for a revolution in this country. Because our leaders really have a lot to answer to us. I won't say they failed us, but, you know, they have a lot to do. They have a lot to do. The upcoming child now in our environment, you know, has a questionable future. You really cannot say, you know, some areas that, you know, somebody was saying sometimes that your prayer point is dependent on where you're born, and that's the truth. I'm telling you.
You're right about
if you're outside the country, what's your business with God? Give me food to eat today. God, give me security.
Because the trains are there. The system that works.
Yes. God, don't let me enter Porto. Don't let my tire burst on the road. Those are not prayer points. But here in Nigeria, you know, the common prayer points are the typical Nigerian. We just pray fervently. But the truth is, I mean, we are all at that brink.
Okay, so we are all at that drink. We're all sitting on a keg of gunpowder. Something needs to be done. If we just keep discussing it and nothing is being done, we're still on the same spot.
Yes,
what are those things that need to be done?
So we just picked the government part. As individuals, it is very pertinent for us to have an idea, to have knowledge about the things that affect us. I mean, some people know that this is bad, but they still engage in it anyways. They say something will kill us someday. But the truth is that little thing you're doing in your small space, you're smoking, you're putting a lot of people at risk. That alcohol that you're taking as a bus driver, you're putting a lot of people at risk. So as individuals, you know, we need to have a change of heart. We call it personal sense of responsibility. Like, I am responsible for my health and I'm responsible for the people around me. Let us not have the attitude that once I'm fine, then I don't care about anybody. No. You know, if I as an individual takes that into consideration, I just don't look at my health. I look at the people around me. I look at how I can help the people around me. I look at how I can, you know, if I have the capacity to employ some people to help me do some things. I look at how the interpersonal relationships between us can be good. We shouldn't have that master slavery kind of thing. You have somebody working under you that has not eaten, and, you know, all you're interested is just work, do the work and go. So that is one side. The other side is for us to be conscious of the things that affect our health. For women, your breast assessment is very important. Your cervical screening is very important. Your regular medical checks is very important. The lifestyle factors I mentioned, smoking, alcohol intake, exercise. As little as exercise, it has been shown to affect a lot of things in our lives. It affects the mental health. So, you know, like somebody say, don't let the problem of Nigeria stress you down. Just try to find opportunity in every challenge. That's the truth.
And talking about exercising, I had a personal experience one time. Before I went out to do my exercise, I did my blood pressure, and somehow when I came back, the machine was still there, and I was like, oh, let me do this thing again. And I realized that it just got better.
Yes.
So I was discussing with a friend, and I said to him, exercising, blah and blah and blah. I said, because to my amazement, I was thinking, you are breathing, your heart is pumping, everything. So the blood pressure should go up or something. But I was really, really amazed that
the guidelines in the management of most of the chronic conditions like hypertension and diabetes is the lifestyle factor. It's always the first. Exercising, diet rich in fruits and vegetables, lots of water, cut down on sodium, that's salt intake, take a lot of fruits and vegetables. All those things are usually the first, because we realize that the lifestyle factors are beginning to impact on the medical things. If you take the life factors away, there is a condition we call pre-diabetes, where the values we use to diagnose diabetes are not overtly high as they should, but some are deranged. At that stage, it is just the lifestyle things. We don't even start medication. So lifestyle factor, exercise, and all of the lifestyle things all together have a lot of role to play, even in mental health. When you are depressed, when you have issues with sleep, go for exercise. Your body releases something we call the happy hormone. It calms your nerves. And you just see that things start working for you. And these are things that are not just in the books. They are things that we try, they are things we do, and are very, very effective.
And you see these cases on a daily basis,
Oh, sure.
on a per second basis anyway.
As a family physician, we see all the cases that come to the hospital. So we see them as they are coming raw.
But you see, the thing is that actually Nigerians are catching, the educated ones are catching on. Just as you said, exercises everywhere. You see that people walking.
Yes.
You see in the mornings, weekends, they're walking. Everybody, everybody is actually exercising these days because they know that it is very important and it helps. So the awareness is actually catching on. And I hope that will bring the numbers down. Is it bringing the numbers down really?
The truth is, for the past couple of years, 5 to 10 years, Nigeria's life expectancy has actually been hovering around 54, 55.
Do you expect it to come down or go up?
If all of these factors, not just one, but all. Remember I said it's an interplay of these factors. If all of these factors are looked into, of course it will get better. We have places where their life expectancy is about 80-something years, 85, 89. We are talking about 54, 55 in Nigeria. It's really disturbing.
Yeah.
And there's this average life expectancy at birth, which is about 60, even in Nigeria. 60 to 63. For men is about 60, for women is about 63. But as you go on, as diseases come in, as childhood illnesses come in, some die along the line, some drop along the line, and very few people eventually make it. So we say that even age is a factor. By the virtue of the fact that you live up to a particular age, for example, you live up to like 75, that means that you have surpassed most of the conditions that should happen before that age. So you're likely to live a little longer. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. So the higher you go, the higher your life, your life expectancy, all things being equal. So each of those factors must be looked into, and an interplay of positive impacts in all of these factors would definitely increase the figures.
Now, I want to ask you this question. You said the higher you go, as you advance in age, right?
Yeah.
The less...
the higher your life expectancy.
The higher your life expectancy.
Yes.
Oh, so why is it that way?
So I start from when you're born. Like I said earlier, we have a very high level of infant mortality. That is children less than 1 dying. Once you're able to pass that age, you're likely to move for some years before you start facing the challenges of that age group. So if you're in the 40s, the hypertension, the diabetes, the cancers come around that age.
Seems to be as if between 40 and 55, those years are the most critical in life
so
of a man.
most times when you go beyond that age, you're likely to live more years.
Oh, really?
Because it's like passing through a big hurdle.
Yes, you pass through those
so you're likely
hurdles.
to move higher. So that's the explanation. So that.
And then again, you have less stress, You don't pay children's school fees anymore.
Yeah.
You don't have to. So now you're
That's talking about the lifestyle also.
Yes. So
Yeah.
You know, I mean, as regards that, the truth is, the early life determines what happens in the later life.
Definitely.
If you
Right.
are educated, your children are educated, they're in school, yes, at that time you're resting. But we have the 83s that are still walking on the street. They're still selling, matchboxes.
Yeah, that's-
Because
They're
the
still
children
doing-
are not doing
they're-
well.
Yeah, they're still doing odd jobs. I was somewhere 2 days ago, and the security man was such an elderly man. It hit me, and I was telling the person seated on the passenger seat. I said, it really beats me. It eats me a lot when I see elderly people like this, and they
Working
still have
so
to
hard.
do this. Just get up, open the gates, and
I'm telling you.
I don't know why I got so emotional that day. I was almost crying.
But
So,
I think I
Eh.
think that it's all right, and this is why I say so. Abroad, in the UK, in America, you see elderly people, very elderly people. They are working, but they do it with prestige.
no. But when you say they are
That's another
working,
thing.
no.
Yeah, they do.
When you say they are working, it's relative now.
Yes.
You don't see them at the gate opening one heavy gate, pulling it. You don't see
Feeding
them.
from hand to mouth.
You-
No, that's
thing
where the
that's
difference is.
And
That's-
you see, most of them, it gets to a certain age that
They shouldn't.
They won't work, but they just you see them strolling on the street, having, so because the society has prepared, what they will live on at that time
Precisely,
for
whatever
them.
is coming
So
there.
it's you hardly, I don't think you hardly find elderly people of that age, over there, and I think that it's really
Yeah, but not
it's
doing
really
that kind of work.
Yes. It's really unfortunate. I think the advice we should be, giving out to our viewers is that plan your future while you are still active. Because time, they say, wait for nobody. Before you
Yes.
know what is happening, just like I tell people, when you have a child, you say, the child is being naughty. You say, it's just a child, leave the child. Before you say Jack and Robinson, the child is taller than you, and you find yourself wherever you are.
And there's
found
trouble.
yourself.
There's real trouble.
Yes. So I think we should begin to
Plan our future.
Yes, and the government also should begin to put in place
Yes,
some things
measures.
for
That's
for
it.
people that are growing in the
Measures.
elderly, so that at least in their old age, when they are vulnerable, they can
The sad truth is that in our climate we really don't have anything for the older ones.
Oh,
Yes.
that's unfortunate.
It's just
and
sad.
that's what we're trying to say. If if you say plan a future and you don't have anything to plan that future with, then there's really no future. The government has to come in. The government has to help the citizens. Well, that's the much we can take on this segment. Dr. Badmus, you've been a great source of
It's been a
of help,
pleasure.
and you've really informed us. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you.
It's been nice having you on. Yinka,
Thank you so much. It's been so educative today. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you. That's the bit we can take on this segment. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.